What was it? I wrote it down here. Handmaiden to the patriarchy, which I think she means she's bashing Monica Lewinsky. I'm not sure. But this only is appealing to an ever-shrinking circle of feminist women, the same who bow to the altar of trans men and keep silent when real women are victimized by really bad men. But again, it's another assigned opinion that's lazily presented, men against women. Whether it's race or gender, as long as you pit one group against the other, they won't look up at you. And this is how the Democrat Party survives, is they want everybody to fight each other over their specific.
What happens when the queen of political plot twists collides with the king of late-night chaos? Grab your popcorn, because Greg Gutfeld just took Hillary Clinton's carefully polished image and turned it into a demolition derby. Imagine mixing a debate stage with a comedy roast and then throwing in a blender full of sarcasm. That's exactly what went down. And the results are so outrageous, you won't believe Hillary's reaction. Buckle up. This meltdown is one for the history books.
We're gonna ride through the show with it. Hillary Clinton has never understood a Republican woman like me, and she's clearly not trying to change that pattern of behavior whatsoever. She doubles down on this, talking about the patriarchy and not bending the knee, and the nuclear family, and how that's such an.
Hillary Clinton has always carried herself like the world's most polished political veteran. Decades in Washington, endless titles, a resume longer than a CVS receipt. She practically glows with that untouchable aura that says, "I've been through the mud and I came out cleaner than you." But then comes Greg Gutfeld, who doesn't buy into political perfumes. He sees the mud, points at it, and makes sure everyone else laughs at it, too. And in this clash, Hillary's well-crafted seriousness meets the sarcastic wrecking ball of late-night mockery.
She thinks it's virtuous to have the entire third world and Latin America break through the border right before their water breaks and then have a baby at an American hospital without health insurance and then just raise the kid in a hotel room in Midtown while we pay for it? Absolutely not. We want more babies. Everybody wants more babies, because if you don't have them, it's basic arithmetic, Katie. You go bankrupt first and then the civilization collapses. And all the policies the lefts are pushing is contributing to the decline of.
Enjoying this video? Please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon, because that's the thing about Hillary. Her entire persona has always been about control. Control the narrative. Control the room. Control the conversation. She talks like she's briefing the United Nations, even when she's explaining her lunch order. Everything feels scripted, tested, and wrapped in layers of political Teflon. Yet, what makes someone like Gutfeld dangerous is that he doesn't bring a sledgehammer. He brings a clown horn. And a clown horn will always puncture a balloon faster than a knife.
In Washington, D.C., the giant grocery chain has announced a ban on large bags. Great, now where will I shop? Complains one large bag.
The trigger moment was almost too perfect. Hillary once again stepping into the spotlight, offering commentary on modern politics and her own legacy as if she's the ghost of elections past, whispering wisdom into America's ear. But Gutfeld didn't see wisdom. He saw contradictions dressed up as expertise. He saw the same politician who presided over blunders like Libya, whose email scandal became the meme of an entire election, whose campaign strategy in 2016 managed to lose to a man who tweeted at 3 o'clock in the morning like he was fighting with his Wi-Fi router.
For Biden starts to widen. Is it time to pillory Hillary? She's already begun the charm offensive.
Well, let me answer one of your questions, because I think that's what you are entitled to. Well, let me answer one of your questions, because I think that's what you are entitled to. 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 That's what you are entitled to.
Well, maybe not charming, but offensive. It's panic in a pantsuit as the coronation turns to annihilation, as Benghazi binds to her like Stickum on Lester Hay.
And that's the beauty of comedy. It doesn't need footnotes. Gutfeld just needed to point out the obvious absurdity. And suddenly, the mighty fortress of Hillary's image looked more like a sand castle at high tide. Her foreign policy decisions, he framed them as a game of Jenga played with dynamite. Her email scandal, he reduced it to the political equivalent of losing your Netflix password, but insisting Russia stole it. Her campaign loss, like entering a marathon with a map, water, and running shoes, only to trip on your own shoelaces at the starting line. The roast worked because it wasn't empty insult. It was fact-driven ridicule. People could connect the dots. They remembered the scandals, the debates, the endless news cycles. And Hillary's greatest vulnerability has never been scandal. It's comedy. Politicians can spin, deny, deflect. They can write op-eds, give speeches, hold press conferences. But there's no comeback for laughter. Once people start laughing at you, you stop being feared. You stop being respected. You become a walking setup for a late-night bit. And that's exactly where Gutfeld drove the nail.
New study claims that oral sex may lead to dementia. Well, my husband has nothing to worry about, said one woman.
It's a hell of a trade-off.
Yeah.
Imagine spending decades curating your image as the sharp, serious, seasoned political mind, only to have it unraveled by jokes about email servers and failed campaigns. That's the kind of destruction no investigation or opponent could pull off. Comedy doesn't just sting, it lingers. It repeats itself in memes and TikToks and everyday conversations. Suddenly, people don't see the Iron Lady of politics. They see the punchline, and the timing couldn't be worse. Hillary has been working overtime to maintain relevance, sprinkling her commentary into every election cycle like seasoning nobody asked for. But in the comedic version, she lost because she treated the campaign like a coronation. She showed up with every advantage: money, name recognition, political machine, only to get bulldozed by rallies that looked like rock concerts and tweets written in capital letters at ungodly hours. Comedy reframes her loss not as tragedy, but as slapstick. And once you see it that way, you can't unsee.
And, they're going to try to ignore him for as long as they can because they're deathly afraid of him. And they're going to do to him what they did to me in the Democratic primary of 2020, which is pretend you don't exist. And then if people start noticing you, then they will try to smear and cancel and destroy him at all costs.
I remember what Hillary did to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and she's still standing.
Baseless smears that repeated over and over and over again by the propaganda media until people actually start to believe it, and it starts causing some real damage.
But on the bright side, Hillary didn't kill you.
No lies detected. Fact check true. You're an enemy of Hillary Clinton. You're still alive. Well, that.
Foreign policy. Same deal. The official line is complicated global strategy. The comedic line, a choose-your-own-adventure book where every option ends with chaos. The Libya intervention framed as oops, we knocked over a domino and now the whole table's on fire. The Russian reset button fiasco compared to rebooting your old Dell computer with a hammer. Comedy compresses complexity into imagery so ridiculous it sticks harder than a white paper ever could. The email scandal. To her defenders, it was bureaucratic nonsense blown out of proportion. To comedians, it was the gift that kept on giving. And when the cracks finally showed, the destruction was complete. Gutfeld didn't just poke fun. He stripped away the aura. Suddenly, Hillary looked less like the calculating stateswoman and more like the protagonist of her own political blooper reel. And that's why it worked, because it felt earned.
I have to admit I'm a little obsessed with the Hillary Clinton detail. I have no idea if it's true or not, but the idea that they had to sedate her because she was having these bouts of violent anger and cheerfulness. So the anger actually kind of works, right? That makes sense. That tracks for Hillary Clinton.
Imagine people are tired of it. They don't want another scripted monologue. They want honesty, even if it's brutal, even if it's sarcastic. And comedy provides that honesty. It cuts through the jargon with a single punchline that says what everyone's been thinking, but hasn't put into words. Hillary's downfall here wasn't policy, it was perception. Once you're perceived as laughable, there's no recovery plan. You can write books, go on speaking tours, appear on late-night shows, but the image of you being clowned sticks like glue. And Gutfeld ensured that image spread far and wide. Think about the irony. Hillary survived congressional hearings, FBI investigations, vicious media cycles, and still walked out intact. But one comedian with a sharp tongue can cause more lasting damage than all of that combined.
Political equivalent of marginal royalty from a forgotten European country, smugly entitled, but no one cares. Her crimes, 1. She mistook the cause of terror, blaming Benghazi on a video, seeking a scapegoat instead of assuming responsibility. 2. She treated classified info the way her husband treats women, casually disposable. In this age when there's no monopoly on mayhem, we need careful, not careless. 3, she put personal privacy before public security. The way Bill used the Secret Service, she used the Secret Server, both to create a wall between prying eyes. So, no surprise, in a new poll, when Americans are asked what word best describes her, they scream liar, followed by dishonest, then untrustworthy.
Because investigations end, scandals fade, but memes last forever. Hillary's greatest weapon has always been seriousness. But seriousness is a shield that collapses the moment people stop taking you seriously. Gutfeld didn't attack her with fury. He dismantled her with mockery. And in that moment, she wasn't the heavyweight political figure anymore. She was just the subject of a joke. The fallout is bigger than just Hillary. It's about how people view politicians altogether. When laughter enters the equation, the mystique of power disappears. Politicians stop being larger-than-life figures and start being characters in a never-ending comedy show.
Half of registered voters said any Republican would be better than President Biden, prompting one woman to legally change her name to NE Republican.
The lesson is brutal but simple. You can survive scandal, but you can't survive becoming a meme. And Hillary's legacy, carefully built over decades, risks being remembered less for her accomplishments and more for being the politician who got roasted into irrelevance by a late-night comic. Because in the end, comedy leaves a permanent scar. You can polish speeches, rewrite history, spin narratives, but you can't erase the punchline. And Hillary, for all her power, couldn't escape being laughed at.
Hillary Clinton argues Joe should be, quote, direct and forceful, end quote, against Trump in the CNN debate. Yeah, direct and forceful, just like the noose I put around Epstein's neck. If I did it.
That's what makes this takedown so fascinating. Because it wasn't just about Hillary. It was about exposing the larger game politicians play. Every talking point, every media appearance, every attempt to stay relevant is drenched in strategy. But the moment comedy gets involved, the strategy unravels. Jokes don't care about strategy. Jokes don't care about careful phrasing. They take the most carefully designed narrative and reduce it to a one-liner people repeat at the office water cooler. And that's where the destruction becomes permanent. Hillary can argue policy until the end of time. She can debate, explain, spin, but once the punchline exists, it overshadows the explanation.
The trend. To Americans, she's less dependable than your cable guy. Meanwhile, as she implodes, Biden basks, a white knight with whitened teeth. But as nice as Joe is, it reveals the sober truth. No one wants Hillary. Look at the other options. Sanders, Warren, Jerry Brown. It's a line of loony leftists who recast past horribles as progressive solutions. And so Hillary ratchets up the rhetoric.
Extreme views about women, we expect that from some of the terrorist groups, but it's a little hard to take coming from Republicans who want to be the president of the United States. I know that there are some on the other side who are seriously advocating to deport 11, 12 million people who are working here and literally pull people out of their homes and their workplaces, round them up, put them, I don't know, in buses, boxcars.
Boxcars. So Republicans are not just terrorists, but also Nazis. I guess she forgot to mention pedophiles, but maybe she can tweet it.
People won't quote the white papers or the carefully crafted speeches. They'll remember the jokes. They'll remember the smirk. They'll remember the roast that stripped away decades of seriousness in a single night. That's how comedy rewrites history. Not with facts, but with laughter that sticks. So, while Hillary may keep speaking, writing, and making her case, the truth is the case is closed. Not by politicians, not by pundits, but by comedians. And Greg Gutfeld stamped the final seal with sarcasm sharp enough to slice through decades of political armor. And that's the real destruction, not just of one politician's image, but of the idea that seriousness alone can shield you in an era where laughter rules.